Man, what an NFL combine we just had. Welcome to Ticket with Tippett. I'm your host, Gavin Tippett, and we bring you the best Dynasty fantasy football content on all social media platforms. And today, like I said, we're going through the NFL combine, looking at the winners and losers of the NFL combine. And honestly, the 2026 class wasn't looked upon as the greatest class, but I think they showed out and gave great numbers. They were super fast, super smooth. Really, a lot of the wide receivers were so smooth. And we had a couple of fallers. We didn't really have too many people that would fall out. There were obviously a lot that didn't test, so that was kind of a sore thumb in the whole experiment. But we'll see which guys moved up and down in rankings and draft projections and how that's going to play out in Dynasty Fantasy Football. So, without further ado, if you're ready to rock and roll, let's get into it. All right, so obviously, first we're going to talk about the winners. Let's talk about running backs here. We're on NFL.com/combine tracker. It has all the stats and all the results from the combine. And obviously, in Dynasty Fantasy Football, we're going to look at quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. We're not going to look at any of the other positions. You can go to other football channels to go see the full broad spectrum. But today, we're focusing on Dynasty Fantasy Football. So, the biggest riser at the running back position probably should be Mike Washington Jr. Normally it'd be Jeremiah Love, but he's already a top 10 prospect more than likely. And Mike Washington really gave himself the best chance to increase his stock. We were looking at Mike Washington as kind of like this third to fourth rounder in normal projections, not in dynasty projections, but in the actual NFL draft. And now we're looking at he's a for sure third rounder and maybe a second rounder, all because of his explosive speed. So let's look at this. He finished first out of all running backs that tested in the 40-yard dash. He finished first in the 10-yard split. In the vertical, he finished second. And that's because Seth McGowan pretty much blew everybody out of the water. And he finished second to Seth McGowan again in the broad jump. And he was pretty damn close to getting that first spot. So between the explosive speed, and we had that on film, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of props here because in December, I did a kind of like way too early rookie running back rankings. And when I watch Mike Washington's tape, it is crazy film. I watch all 22 film, 2 games per player. And if you go on there, you will see that Mike Washington Jr. is legit, plays at SEC school. He's from Arkansas. So this guy has the physical capabilities. He's big. He's 223 pounds, and he can run over people and use his explosiveness. It's going to be a nightmare for NFL teams to figure out how to tackle him and get him down. So I think he really benefited probably the most out of anybody in this combine. Now let's move on to fellow running back in his class, Damon Claiborne from Wake Forest. We see right here. This is still a broad jump here. He finished sixth. He was pretty much close to top 5 in every statistical category as well. I don't think he did the vertical. Yeah, no, he didn't do the vertical. And then 10-yard split, he was fifth there. And, you know, a tenth of a second is a lot in football, but it's also not a lot in 10 yards. So pretty close in his 10-yard split to being at the top. And then his 40-yard dash, obviously this dude just picks up speed and carries speed as he's going. So once he gets past those 10 yards, you're just not going to catch this guy unless you're Mike Washington or Jeremiah Love. So Damon Claiborne, fifth and sixth rounder, more than likely, just because of his size. His size is a big uh, stopping ground for a lot of scouts. And when they're watching film, you know, once he is touched, he's kind of going down. He's quick and shifty, but I mean, once you get your hands on him, he can't really go anywhere. He doesn't have the size to break tackles or do anything like that. So he really bumped himself up from late fifth, early sixth, I think all the way up to a fourth rounder in the NFL draft. I think he's also he's probably the second highest uptick in draft projection because I mean he looks smooth. I mean, other than I would say Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price looks smooth through the drill work. I think Damon Claiborne was the third smoothest player in all of the drill work when it came to the pass catching, the cuts, the elusivity. I mean, he just looked very smooth, very quick. So I think he bumped his stock up pretty well in this combine. And now moving to wide receiver, everybody knows this was the combine of Dion Burks. This was the he pretty much like they run the gauntlet in real life and in that wide receiver catching drill, but he ran the gauntlet pretty much in the NFL Combine. So obviously got beat out on the 40-yard dash by Brennan Thompson and Xavier Thomas, who can both fly, like absolutely fly. And they're honestly about the same size as Deion Burks. So it's funny that all these small guys come in, and then you have like Jeff Caldwell and Bryce Lance, who are like what are they, like 6'3" and 6'4" respectively. So it's funny to see like three of the little guys go out there and really torch it up on that 40-yard dash, and then have like these two lanky, tall wide receivers go out there and they look like they're running so much slower, but the short guys look like they're running so much faster. But they're all within you know a tenth of a second of each other. So Deion Burks, though, crazy, crazy, crazy combine. He really helped his draft stock as well. So that was his 40-yard dash. His 10-yard split here came in second, obviously. And this is what it got me. A 42 and a half vertical for Deion Burks. That's crazy. And then his broad jump, he finished fifth right there with 10 foot 11 inches. So just crazy, crazy, crazy stats from Deion Burks, and he looked sure-handed all throughout the receiving drills, and he looked like he was able to track the deep ball because he's using the slot a lot. He's used for like these like screen routes, drag routes, slant routes, these out routes. Like he's not known for like these super deep passes. So for him to be able to track the ball efficiently, show that he had good hands, I think he improved his stock. We were sitting at, kind of a early third, maybe mid third, and he's probably going to creep into the second round now just because of how explosive he actually was at the combine. And that moves me on to kind of the hometown kid at the combine there in Indianapolis. Omar Cooper, the wide receiver from Indiana. He didn't really show crazy explosivity or anything like that, but everything that we thought was true about him is absolutely true. We know that he can go up and jump up and get the ball. We know that he can sit down and find soft spots in the route. We know he has great hands, and just good at the ball point. Like I said, he can go up and grab any football that you throw his way. So we were looking at like a mid to late second rounder, and now we're up to early second, late first. Like he might swap spots with one of the wide receivers that I'm going to talk about later in this video. So Omar Cooper Jr., I think the big thing for him, the one thing I want to look at here, the 40-yard dash. He's not very high on this list, but he did run like a sub 4.5, and that was a big thing for him coming into this combine. Was people didn't know if he had the speed to get below a 4.5, and he almost got below a 4.4. So he showed that he's got some pretty daggone good speed, and I think he can use that well at the next level. I think his dynasty draft stock just went completely up. Like he's gonna jump guys that will one guy we'll talk about later, but I mean he jumped Elijah Surratt like for sure he jumped him. Um, I mean guys like Chris Brazzell, he passed a while ago, but now he's solidified himself past Chris Brazzell. Let's see who else is down here. Like Jacoby Lane, he's definitely past Jacoby Lane. Jeremy Bernard, I think he cleared himself of Jeremy Bernard. And then there's a couple other guys down there, like Malachi Fields. He completely surpassed Malachi Fields. So Omar Cooper Jr., one of the biggest winners of the combine this year. All right, so now we're going to look at Skylar Bell. I want to open up his thing, but the portal ends up playing an ad and it plays the sound. So we're going to skip past opening up his actual portal inside the NFL.com combine tracker. But just a few things with Skylar Bell. He was a late third, early fourth round pick, projected to be, and now I think he's a third round lock. I think he really moved himself up about a round in this NFL combine. He looked like the smoothest wide receiver out of everybody in the combine. Didn't drop any footballs, had sure hands, soft hands too at that. So Skylar Bell really moved himself up these boards, and I think he's going to be a great piece for a team in the NFL when they're trying to have this shifty guy who can move between the slot and outside. He's a little bit smaller, but he can play outside because of his route tree. He's able to really move around on the offense, and I think a team's going to find that super valuable. So his dynasty projection is going to go up as well. And then we're going to talk about Carson Beck because he didn't do any of the testing as far as the combine goes, but he did a lot of the throwing. So he was by far the most accurate quarterback, and he was projected probably somewhere in the third to fourth round. But he is likely a round 3 pick now because of his accuracy in the combine. Every single throw was on point. The deep ball was beautiful. He was dropping everything in the bucket. And then his throws to the perimeter of the field, which are the hardest throws in football because they're all the way across the field. Carson Beck looked the most accurate and the most on time. So I think he's the automatic third quarterback taken after Mendoza, who's obviously going pick number one, and then likely Ty Simpson going in the late first round. So I think Carson Beck really solidified himself as that third quarterback in this draft class. The quarterbacks that went through some of these 40-yard dashes, and the guy that we're going to talk about, everybody saw him, Taylor Green. Let's go through each category first, first. Notice a pattern, right? He was by far the most athletic quarterback, and while there weren't that many quarterbacks to test out, he still probably would have been the most athletic by far out of everybody who was at that combine. He was a day three, probably a late day three at that. He was probably like a sixth round, seventh round guy, just because NFL teams have talked about possibly trying him at different positions. And at the NFL Combine, he said that I am a quarterback. I'm going to play quarterback, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. So, um, yeah, I mean, I he he tests like a wide receiver, and people are going to say that, and I'm not against it because Lamar Jackson obviously had the same thing. So I'm not against him saying that he wants to be a quarterback. Give the guy a chance at quarterback. If things don't work out, maybe you can convince him at some point that, he's such an athletic freak that he could end up playing wide receiver as long as he has good enough hands. So I think now he's probably an early day three. I think he's probably a fifth rounder now. He moved himself up, especially like these guys that are down here like Cole Payton, Sawyer Robinson, Joe Fagnano, Haynes King, Luke Altmaier. Like these guys all tried to prove themselves at the combine, and that's what the combine's for. But Taylor Green just looks so much better athletically that I think to an extent you have to take a chance on that athleticism. He's got decent tape. It's not the greatest tape of all time, but in dynasty standards, he's definitely going to jump up because people love watching the combine and love watching who these athletic freak guys are. I mean, look at Anthony Richardson. That guy got way overhyped. He didn't have the amount of starts that you needed to have to come out of college and be productive in the NFL. So he was going to be a project anyways. And all these people who really shot him up their leaderboards into dynasty rankings really fell for it. And I think Taylor Green might be the same, but you have to take those leaps of faith on athleticism. And I think when you're in dynasty and you're in these late rounds and you have a small percentage chance to hit on these picks anyways, why not pick the guy that might give you the best opportunity? He has the chance to play in multiple positions. So if it doesn't work, he could go play another position and actually be good, kind of like a Terrell Pryor. This is exactly who he reminds me of. And then now let's look at the tight ends here. So you're going to notice something here as well. Kenyon Sadiq pretty much ran the the combine gauntlet here. So first and 40, first and 10-yard split, and then he was second in vertical, and he was second in broad. So you're going to see a common name of who was next to him, and that was Eli Stowers. So we're not going to talk too much about Kenyon Sadiq because I don't think he rose. I think he just solidified that he's a first rounder because of his athleticism. So I don't think that he really had a crazy rise in his draft stock. But I think Eli Stowers had the biggest rise because Eli Stowers is probably projected as like a third rounder. I think he might have moved himself into the second round, and he might be the only tight end taken in the second round. Unless some guys go to their pro day and absolutely kill it. Eli Stowers put on a show at the combine. He had the record for the highest vertical. A 45 and a half vertical for a tight end is absurd, like crazy. So, I mean, when you're beating a guy like an athletic freak, a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, and you're going 2 inches above him on a vertical, that's kind of crazy. And then he finished third here in the 10-yard split, and he finished third here, well, tied second really for the 40-yard dash. So Kenyon Sadiq is really like the smaller, faster, more built like a wide receiver tight end, and Eli Stowers is kind of like that a little bit taller, a little bit more stout, but runs great routes and finds the open spots in the defense. If you watch this film, it's pretty good of how he's a former quarterback, so I think he understands, the soft spots and zones and how to read a defense and see the concepts that they're running. So he's kind of like a quarterback at tight end, and it's kind of neat to watch him play. So, and now he's got the athletic ability to back it up at testing as one of the best tight ends. I think he jumped up to the second round as a second round lock for sure. So, now we're going to get into our losers. And I think the biggest loser from the combine is by far Denzel Boston. The guy went out and publicly said that his hands were like vacuums. And if he touches the ball or it's anywhere in his vicinity, that he's going to suck it up. Pause, first of all, pause. But what he said is crazy because he would not only go out and drop a ball, he dropped like 3 or 4 footballs that were thrown to him in the combine drills. In the gauntlet, he dropped one. In the out route that they were running, he dropped one, and then I believe he dropped one on the go ball. That it was right after they were talking about how he talked about his hands were vacuum like, and he dropped one that was just right in the bread basket. I can't remember who threw it, but they put it right in the bread basket and he dropped it. So Denzel Boston by far is the biggest loser, and I honestly think that Omar Cooper jumped above him. I personally have Omar Cooper higher in my rankings than Denzel Boston. I just don't see Denzel Boston. He's got the athleticism and the size, but he's not the fastest. He's not. I mean, he can jump out of a gym, really, but I mean, he didn't really show that at the combine either. He didn't really jump out of the gym. I don't even think he. I don't know. I don't know if he jumped at all. I don't remember him. Yeah, I don't remember him jumping at all. So, um, let's see here. Let me make sure. Yeah, he did jump. So he was 35 inches. Let's see. Yeah, 35 inches. That's. I mean, his height is obviously what gets him up into the air and higher than others. But a 35 inch is not that great. I mean, that's the bottom half of the entire combine for the wide receivers. So I mean, he just didn't show the athleticism that people probably thought he had, and his hands looked horrible. And he's known for having good hands in his film. I mean, that was kind of one of his upsides, and something that people liked about him was that he was able to go up and he had sure hands. I think he had 2 drops his entire season last year, and he had 3 or 4 drops in the combine alone. So he's got to have a good pro day. Like if he wants to stay a first round pick, he is going to have to show out in his pro day, and we'll see what happens. But as far as dynasty goes, like he for sure dropped down below Omar Cooper. He's in the Elijah Surratt range, like, and that's crazy to say because he even dropped below Deion Burks for me. I think Deion Burks provides more value in dynasty than uh than Denzel Boston does because I mean Deion Burks is one of these smaller guys that's going to get a ton of targets and they're going to design plays for him where Denzel Boston's just going to play an X wide receiver role. Like he's not going to get a ton of targets. He's just going to get he's going to get red zone opportunities. But I mean depending on what team he goes to, I mean you don't know what's going to happen, but Deion Burks has a chance where any team could use him. I mean any team could use him in any way. So, I mean Denzel Boston really hurt his stock in this year's combine. I think that I don't know. It's just he just didn't perform, and sometimes it's just like that, and sometimes coaches won't even think about that. They've seen enough film to kind of break down who he is and where they project him at. So we'll see what happens, but I honestly think that hurt his stock a lot. So the next wide receiver, and this is our last player here. So our next receiver is Malachi Fields. He was getting late first round buzz and early second round buzz coming into the combine, but he dropped into the second round for me. Kind of the same thing as Denzel Boston. Didn't show elite physical capability. He's kind of a bigger guy too, but he dropped into the second round because of the drops. Like I mean, you're running these drills and you're running full speed, sometimes not full speed. Like some of the deep ball routes, you're not running full speed and he kind of struggled as well with his hands. And I mean, it's probably nerves, but like, what are you gonna do in your first NFL game when your nerves are running like crazy? You're gonna have to perform. Like, you're gonna have to buckle down and perform. So, I think that Malachi Fields and Denzel Boston probably hurt themselves the most. So, one running back I wanted to talk about. This is the last player of my fallers, Emmett Johnson, the running back out of Nebraska. He just did not test well. His game film looks decent, but I thought that he was going to test a lot better than he did. I thought he was going to have a chance to solidify himself as a possible top 5 running back in this year's class, and that obviously did not happen. He finished dead last in the 40. He the 3 cone was not good, and And the only reason that he finished in first place, and yes, he did finish in first place. If I erase these names, he's still the only one there. So Emmett Johnson finished in first place because he was the only one who ran the 3-cone drill. His vertical and his 10-yard split were not great either. So Emmett Johnson really hurt his stock, I think, by performing in the combine. I think he should have taken time and really trained and got himself better for his pro day. Kind of taking the Jonah Coleman route. I think Jonah Coleman took that same exact route. The only event that Jonah Coleman did was the bench press. So um, Emmett Johnson just needs to really show out at his pro day to really have any kind of significant upgrade in his draft stock. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's everything for the NFL Combine and my review and my winners and losers. So go ahead and drop in the comments who your winner and losers are from the NFL Combine and who are you most excited for in Dynasty football that came out of the Combine. Who performed the best that gets you the most excited and pumped to draft in these Dynasty rookie drafts. But other than that, if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe, and share this video. And then we'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, and thanks for stopping by.